Every time we talk about the war on terror, most of us limit ourselves to certain geographies and countries like Iraq, Syria, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. We don't talk about, let's say, Nigeria, where 317 schoolgirls were kidnapped by terrorists last week. We don't talk about Mali, where 10 soldiers were killed in a terror attack just last month. We completely ignore Niger, where 56 civilians lost their lives in a terror raid in the month of January. And we rarely see any international headlines on Burkina Faso, Algeria, Mauritania, Guinea, Chad, Ghana, or Cameroon. These are all countries witnessing a devastating surge in terror attacks. Many of them have become the riskiest places on this planet. And we're making a big mistake by assuming that what these countries suffer has no bearing on the future security and stability of the rest of the world. Hello and welcome to Gravitas Plus. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay, and we need to talk about West Africa. This region on the African continent, it is witnessing an unprecedented surge in terrorist activities. It has been called the new battleground for jihadists. The situation in West Africa is extremely volatile. Look at these numbers. As of June 2020, 921,000 people had been forced to flee in Burkina Faso. 593 people had been killed. In Mali, 240,000 people were internally displaced and 592 had been killed. And in Nigeria, 489,000 people had been forced to relocate, while 1,245 had been killed. The blame for these deaths and displacements lies with jihadist terror groups. Most of them have made a marriage of convenience with global terrorist organizations. Some are associated with the Islamic State, others with the Al-Qaeda, and all of them are pushing West Africa into deeper turmoil. But how did they emerge in Africa and why are they thriving? To understand that, we'll begin with Algeria. The year 1992, the Algerian military staged a coup to prevent the Islamic Salvation Front from winning the country's first democratic election. The Islamic Salvation Front was an Islamist political party. The coup pushed Algeria into a civil war, a brutal conflict that lasted till 2002. More than 200,000 Algerians died during this period and 15,000 others disappeared. Among those who disappeared were Islamist fighters who fled the country. They found refuge in the deserted areas of northern Mali. These were sparsely populated areas. The fighters rebuilt their resources, they allied with local rebel groups, and they began engaging in criminal activities. In 2007, these fighters reorganized themselves into a faction and swore allegiance to the Al-Qaeda. They called themselves Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, AQIM, meaning Al-Qaeda in the Islamic West. This group had one aim: overthrow the Algerian government and set up an Islamic State. And to achieve this aim, the AQIM began collaborating and funding a smaller militant group in neighboring Nigeria, a group which now beats the Islamic State in being the most lethal terror outfit perhaps in the world, the Boko Haram. It literally means Western education is a sin. This group emerged in the year 2002 but gained prominence in 2009 after it turned violent. The AQIM provided the Boko Haram with weapons. The Boko Haram had a different motive. It wanted Nigerians to reject Western education, science, and modern literature. To enforce its will, it started razing villages and slaughtering people, kidnapping children. It then used these abducted children to carry out suicide attacks. In 2013, this group kidnapped 276 schoolgirls. In 2020, it kidnapped close to 300 schoolboys, and last week, it kidnapped nearly 317 schoolgirls again. It's an endless cycle of kidnappings and an endless cycle of violence. Since May 2011, the Boko Haram has killed 37,500 people and displaced 2.6 million people. It has turned 244,000 Nigerians into refugees. And in the same period, the Boko Haram has also inspired several fundamentalists to form their own terror outfits. I could name a few: the Ansarul Islam, Ansaru, the Islamic Movement of Nigeria, the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group, and Nusrat al-Islam. In the last 6 years, these groups have increasingly synchronized their operations and carried out multiple terror attacks across Africa. You may not have heard of them, but you must have come across these headlines, the ones that they made. The 2015 Chad suicide bombings carried out by 2 women and 2 children. The 2016 Ouagadougou attacks, where 2 former Swiss MPs were killed. The 2016 Grand Bassam shootings, where 19 people, mostly expats, were killed. And the 2018 Ouagadougou attacks, where the French embassy was attacked. And this is besides the many more raids and crimes that these terror groups commit on a daily basis. So what's driving them? Is it just ideology and religious belief? Well, yes and no. The problem is religious as much as it's financial. You see, poverty, corruption, and underemployment are also to blame here. This is where the Boko Haram operates. The Lake Chad region, one of the poorest regions in the world. It is part of the Chad Basin, an area of severe environmental degradation. This is part of the Sahel, a region with no stable governance. This narrow band of land that stretches from the Atlantic Ocean in the west to the Red Sea in the east, this is the Sahel. It's hot, dry, and vast. It's also the world's most neglected region. The average temperature here is 35 degrees. This has a dramatic effect on food production. There's nothing to grow, there's nothing to sell. Food emergencies are rampant. Poverty is widespread. The conditions make it an ideal breeding ground for terror groups. These people have proven to be vulnerable to radicalization. The likes of Boko Haram and the AQIM exploit their vulnerability. With the absence of proper governance or stable jobs, they lure young men into picking up arms, joining their ranks, and making a quick buck. So how do they do it? How do they make money? Through ransom, extortion, looting banks, imposing taxes, and kidnapping. According to one report, 26% of the global kidnapping cases in 2013 were in Nigeria and were carried out by the Boko Haram. The same report says that in 2011, the AQIM in Mali received $5.4 million per hostage on an average. And let's not even talk about high-profile kidnappings. According to Vicky Huddleston, the former US ambassador to Mali, France had to pay $17 million in ransom. This was for the release of 4 French citizens in 2010, $17 million US. A lot of us would turn in our retirement papers for that sort of money. So the terror groups were raking in the cash. Then came the pandemic. 2020 was a blessing in disguise for them. The Wuhan virus confined most of us to our homes, but for terrorists in West Africa, it provided an opportunity to consolidate and expand. The Boko Haram, in collusion with other terror groups, now controls large swathes of land in Nigeria, and it's extending its reach in Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Chad, Niger, even sub-Saharan Africa. What is the world doing about it? Not very much. France, which once had colonies in West Africa, is the only country that is extensively engaged in combating terror in this region. It has deployed close to 5,100 military personnel and is helping local forces in pushing back terrorists. But the rest of the world is doing very little. Why? Because most world leaders are making self-interested calculations when it comes to West Africa. They consider it to be a supposedly distant threat, one that has no bearing on the future security of the rest of the world. So they're busy carrying out airstrikes in Syria. What I'm about to say next could be politically incorrect, but it's time someone said it. Africa may not have the same strategic significance as West Asia right now. It may not have the kind of oil that West Asia has, but it is the continent of the future. It still contributes almost 10% of the global oil output, 90% of the world's platinum supply, 90% of the world's cobalt supply, half of the world's gold supply, 2/3 of the world's manganese, and 35% of the world's uranium. Africa is critical to world economy and security, and terrorists in West Africa are setting up new fronts in failed states while the world is looking the other way. They're expanding in all directions, posing a serious threat to the economic powerhouses in Africa. They could soon control or destroy these resources and hold Africa's economy hostage, the reverberations of which will be felt around the world. And we are putting money as the thrust of this argument because human rights violations have long failed to move the world. So if it all comes down to money, the world should still be worried about what's happening in Africa.